The story begins deep within a combat zone in Iraq, where a group of Al-Qaeda insurgents has captured several American soldiers. A Marine named John Triton observes the situation from a distance. His superiors order him to hold his position until reinforcements arrive. However, when John Triton sees his fellow soldiers facing the threat of execution, he chooses to disobey orders and intervene. He attacks the location where the hostages are being held, quickly takes down all the enemies, and rescues the soldiers. The next day, John Triton is summoned by the colonel and given discharge papers for failing to follow orders. John Triton attempts to explain the circumstances, but the colonel simply thanks him for his service, praises him as one of their finest warriors, and sends him home. Disheartened, John Triton returns to his hometown in South Carolina, where his wife, Kate, is overjoyed to see him return safely after a long separation. Kate and John Triton enjoy private moments together. Although Kate is thrilled to have him by her side, John Triton struggles to reintegrate into civilian life and takes a job as a security guard to keep himself busy. The next day, a ruthless crime boss named Rome plans to rob a jewelry store. He enters the shop where his accomplices, Morgan, Vessera, and Bennett, are waiting. Rome pretends to examine the diamonds, but very shortly after, he draws a weapon and orders everyone to get down. He causes chaos and takes a woman named Angela hostage. Because the diamonds are protected by bulletproof glass, Rome forces the shop owner to unlock it, or else he will kill Angela. As soon as the case is opened, Rome hands Angela a gun, revealing that they are actually on the same side. They loot all the gems and leave. When the shop owner identifies Rome, the criminal immediately shoots him down. As they escape, a police car arrives. Rome immediately fires a machine gun at the officers while Morgan shoots up their patrol car. They detonate the police car and escape in their own vehicle. Later, authorities suspect that one of the store employees might have been involved in the incident. Meanwhile, John Triton begins his security shift at a large corporation. He gradually grows weary of the daily monotony, especially since his colleague, Joe, spends the entire day just goofing off and reading the newspaper. Joe brags that he will be promoted to manager in 2 years if he performs well. However, John Triton realizes that Joe has worked as a security guard for 9 long years without ever being promoted. Everything changes when they receive a report about a man causing trouble on the 12th floor, shouting and making a scene with his ex-girlfriend. John Triton and Joe rush to the scene, and John Triton is forced to drag the troublemaker downstairs. When the man's bodyguards appear, they provoke John Triton, leading to a brawl. John Triton easily takes down the bodyguards and throws the man through a window of the building. Furious, the man declares that John Triton will be fired and then leaves. Unfortunately, John Triton's actions cost him his job, turning his first day of work into his last. John Triton and Joe sit down to rest and talk. John Triton admits that the military is all he knows, and he has trouble adapting to ordinary jobs like everyone else. He confides in Joe that being a Marine was his whole life. Joe tries to comfort him, reminding him that the only constant in life is change, and that he should cherish time with his family if that is what life offers. Meanwhile, Rome and Angela have returned to their hotel room, where Angela expresses concern about the commotion at the jewelry store. She believes that killing all those people has put them in danger. Rome explains that he killed the store manager because he revealed his real name, while the rest of the robbery went according to plan. He reassures Angela that she has nothing to fear and promises never to hurt her. He then kisses her passionately. Just then, Rome receives a call from someone demanding the return of the stolen diamonds in exchange for $6 million. They schedule a meeting for the next day, and the call ends. Joe drives John Triton home, and John Triton asks him to keep the incident at work a secret. Joe agrees. When John Triton gets home, Kate asks about his work day, and he lies, saying everything is fine. However, a moment later, the TV reports on a violent brawl involving a security guard, and Kate realizes it is John Triton. Seeing her husband struggling, Kate suggests they go on a trip to relax. John Triton is initially hesitant, but eventually agrees after being persuaded. The next day, Morgan goes to pick up a car for the group from a repair shop. The mechanic advises Morgan to take the minivan, but Morgan secretly steals a brand new Cadillac instead. Elsewhere, John Triton and Kate begin their trip to the mountains. After driving for a while, they stop at a gas station to buy snacks. Coincidentally, it is the same gas station where Rome and his gang have stopped. John Triton goes into the store while Kate stays in the car. As Rome is pumping gas, a police car pulls up, making the criminals nervous. The police officer does not recognize them and strikes up a conversation with Rome. The others observe the situation from inside the store. While Rome is talking to the police officer for no specific reason, Morgan panics. He steps up behind the officer and shoots him in the head. Left with no other choice, Rome opens fire on the remaining officer. When John Triton hears the commotion outside, he attempts to run out to check, but is knocked unconscious by Bennett. Angela shoots the store clerk dead as they all rush outside. They decide to hijack John Triton's pickup truck and, discovering Kate sitting inside, decide to take her hostage as insurance against police pursuit. At this moment, John Triton begins to regain consciousness. He sees Kate being roughly dragged away by the group. As he tries to get up, Morgan shoots the gas tank, causing a massive explosion at the store. Miraculously, John Triton survives the explosion unharmed. He quickly escapes and sees the criminals driving away. He helps the injured officer into a vehicle, then jumps into the remaining police car, calls for backup over the radio, reports the situation, and begins chasing the criminals. Rome realizes John Triton is tailing them and orders his accomplices to open fire. The criminals continuously attack John Triton, but his military training keeps him unflinching. Rome then tries to force him off the road, but John Triton persistently pursues without hesitation. John Triton chases the criminals through a hail of bullets. John Triton rams into Rome's vehicle, forcing him into the woods. Finally, Rome drives toward the edge of a cliff, and they fire at John Triton, forcing him to drive his car off the cliff. The car flies into the air, while the criminals continue shooting until it explodes mid-air and falls below. Fortunately, John Triton jumped out of the car before it exploded. The criminals arrive at the scene and assume he is dead. Meanwhile, Kate panics and screams, accusing them of being murderers, which causes Angela to lose control. In a fit of rage, Angela points a gun at Kate, but Rome stops her, reminding her that Kate is their insurance. When Morgan tries to pick a fight with Vesera, Rome gets angry and tells them to stop and figure out how to escape instead of fighting. Since the car is damaged, they decide to cross the swamp to avoid getting caught. Angela knocks Kate unconscious when she insults her. At the same time, Detective Van Buren arrives at the gas station and hears about John Triton's call. He is soon informed about the accident at the cliff and drives there. When he arrives, John Triton, still alive, appears and tells Van Buren that his wife has been kidnapped. The detective tells John Triton that the case is now under police jurisdiction and refuses to let John Triton pursue the criminals, warning him that they are extremely dangerous. Undeterred, John Triton is determined to rescue his wife, and Van Buren tells him to hurry if he wants to save her. Without hesitation, John Triton rushes off in pursuit. Elsewhere, Rome and his accomplices trek through the swamp, with Kate constantly resisting. Angela slaps her again, and Bennett holds Kate tight. Morgan, frustrated with the swamp, argues with Vesera over whose fault it is. The argument escalates quickly. Rome, annoyed by the bickering, shoots Vesera dead without saying a word. The others are shocked by Rome's action, but they keep moving. John Triton continues through the forest and arrives at the spot where Vesera was shot. He does not find the body because it has been eaten by hungry alligators in the area. Shortly after, Rome receives a call from the boss, who scolds him for the mess they have caused. Rome insists that they will keep the diamonds for themselves, claiming that they have done all the hard work. The boss threatens him, warning of consequences. The conversation is interrupted by the sound of a pursuing helicopter. Rome hangs up and flees with the group. As they move through the forest, Morgan starts complaining about the dangerous journey again. Rome tells him to stop blabbering. Rome then stops and asks Kate for her opinion. She insults him, saying he is psychotic. He responds by complimenting her beauty, saying he would have a chance with her if not for Angela. Meanwhile, John Triton is still searching for the criminals. He arrives at a clearing in the forest and senses something is wrong. Just then, a net springs up under his feet, but he quickly cuts the net and escapes. Before he can react, a man points a gun at him, accusing him of being a robber or a cop. John Triton says he is not. When the man does not believe him, John Triton disarms him. John Triton tries to explain that he is looking for his wife, but before he can finish his sentence, another man knocks him unconscious from behind. Elsewhere, the police have arrived very close to where the criminals are hiding. Kate tries to scream, but Bennett covers her mouth. Later, John Triton wakes up in a warehouse where he is being held by the two men. They mistake him for a police officer coming to arrest them for illegal activities. John Triton denies it, but the two men continue to torture him. Finally, John Triton pretends to confess, saying he is a cop and his colleagues are tracking him via GPS. The two men panic upon hearing this, creating an opportunity for John Triton to subdue one of them. He quickly jumps up and breaks the chair he is tied to, freeing himself. He then knocks out one man and begins fighting the second one. After a fierce brawl, he takes down the second man and escapes. John Triton returns to the forest. Although he has lost track of Rome and his wife, he remains undeterred, continuing forward and reaching a river, where he sees Rome and the gang entering an abandoned shack with Kate. Inside, the criminals realize the power is out. Rome orders Morgan to go find the generator. Morgan refuses out of fear. He recounts an embarrassing childhood memory that makes the group laugh. Finally, Morgan agrees to go look for the generator. He finds it and turns it on. John Triton sneaks up behind him, and the two fight. Morgan smashes a bottle on John Triton, but John Triton finishes him off with a knife. Afterwards, Rome steps outside to make a call, asking accomplices to prepare a vehicle at the pier for escape. He also mentions needing a boat that works well. He then orders Bennett to go start the boat stranded nearby and check on Morgan because he has been gone too long. When Bennett walks out, John Triton attacks him, leading to another intense fight. Finally, John Triton takes Bennett down and kills him. He hides the bodies of both Bennett and Morgan under the shack. At the same time, Detective Van Buren arrives at the scene. He tells John Triton to let the police handle it, but John Triton refuses. With no other choice, Van Buren lets John Triton act in his own way. John Triton cuts the power to create a diversion, helping Kate escape from the shack. However, Angela catches up to her, and the two women fight fiercely. Kate overpowers Angela, but Angela recaptures her with the gun in her hand. John Triton climbs through the window, entering the room where Rome is. Just as he faces him, Detective Van Buren walks in, forcing Rome to drop his weapon. Van Buren demands the diamonds, and Rome, without hesitation, suggests Van Buren shoot John Triton if he wants them. To John Triton's shock, Van Buren points the gun at him. At that moment, the truth is revealed that Van Buren had secretly directed Rome to return the stolen diamonds, so he could keep them for himself. However, Van Buren hesitates for a second, and this moment allows John Triton to act. He charges at Van Buren, using him as a human shield while Rome opens fire at them. After the chaos, Rome escapes the confrontation and reunites with Angela, who is still holding Kate. To cover their escape, Rome shoots a nearby fuel tank, causing the entire shack to explode. John Triton luckily escapes death by jumping through the window into the river. When he surfaces, a Coast Guard officer attempts to arrest him. John Triton subdues the officer, takes his boat and gun, and rushes off to pursue the criminals. Meanwhile, Rome, in desperation, steals Detective Van Buren's car and drives away. The police quickly give chase, forcing him to abandon the car. Angela, now on foot and out of options, approaches a truck driver on the road, asking for a ride. However, she kills him immediately afterward, and they continue their journey without hesitation. While still on the boat, John Triton hears a report on the radio about the truck driver's murder. His mind races, recalling the conversation he overheard between Rome and his accomplices earlier. Suspecting they are heading for the pier, John Triton follows the trail. When he arrives at the pier, he sees Rome driving the truck and quickly climbs onto the vehicle. With determination, John Triton grabs Angela through the window and throws her out. To shake John Triton off, Rome drives the truck into a row of sheds. Despite the violent impacts, John Triton manages to hold on for a while. But eventually, he is thrown from the vehicle, and the truck crashes into a building, resulting in a massive explosion. Rome, seeing the truck is undrivable, abandons the vehicle, leaving Kate handcuffed inside. John Triton, relentless in his pursuit, rushes after the truck, which has crashed through the building and plunged into the river. He finally confronts Rome in a burning warehouse. The two rush into a brutal fight to the death, and John Triton beats Rome into a critically injured state. Finally, John Triton overpowers him and throws him into the fire. When John Triton turns back to save Kate, he sees she is trapped in the sinking truck. Not wasting a second, John Triton dives into the water, pulls her out, and performs CPR. After a few attempts, Kate starts breathing again. Slowly but surely, just when they think they are safe, a horribly burned Rome reappears, trying to strangle John Triton with a chain. John Triton fights back, grabs the chain, and uses it to snap Rome's neck, finishing him off. With the danger over, John Triton and Kate share a tender hug and a passionate kiss.